Hello and welcome to another CloudRail training series video. In this video we'll be talking about AWS and basically all the services that we support within AWS, and just in general deep dive into everything that you need from setup to what the different services are used for, and also how they work with our system. Now, without further ado, let's get into the different AWS IoT services that you can connect to from within our device management cloud. So the first and most obvious one is the AWS IoT Core, which is basically the catch-all endpoint for IoT data. So it's just an MQTT broker. It takes all data you want to throw at it and is then just there for distributing the data within the AWS ecosystem. So the IoT Core itself doesn't do anything with the data. It's not being stored, nothing of that matter basically. It just takes data and then based on rules, you forward the data into other services. The second service that we support is IoT SiteWise. Now, IoT SiteWise is basically taking what IoT Core offers and gets it to a more user-friendly setup where you can directly do stuff with your data. So all the data comes in as certain measurements for assets. So you can represent physical assets like a machine, assign measurement properties to those, and then build a hierarchy. So you could say, okay, this is my factory A. I have 2 lines and each line has a molding machine or whatever. So it allows you to specify certain hierarchies and then associate data with it. That also allows you to visualize that data that's basically forwarded into SiteWise. So you can build little dashboards, things like that, and then you can again forward the data out of SiteWise and into IoT Core, where it's then distributed back into other services. And SiteWise itself also has a built-in database basically, which stores all the data and just allows you to get started with IoT rather easily and show something. Now, the last service that we integrate with is AWS Greengrass. Now, this is more of an edge runtime similar to our own CloudRail edge runtime, which allows you to basically execute code on our CloudRail box. And that could be lambda functions, it could be machine learning algorithms, anything like that. Basically, you can just deploy it using the AWS console. It's running on the CloudRail box, and you can pre-process the data locally and do all kinds of fancy stuff. Yeah, so those are the 3 services that we currently support and integrate into, and we'll go into each of those services in detail in this video. Now, as a first step, we want to connect to IoT Core, since that is the easiest one, and you've probably already seen it in the other demo. I'll be going through that a little bit more quick than through the others. Now, let's first go into the credentials manager and set up our IoT Core credentials so that we don't need to enter them every time. So you would go to add credentials. IoT Core is the first thing that you would need to do. Then set a credentials label, which can be anything, and access key and secret access key. So those you will basically get either from your AWS administrator or basically from within the IAM, so the Identity and Access Management. You can just go to access keys and create a new one here. Those you will fill in here. Then you will need the root certificate for the AWS IoT Core. Now, you can easily get that through, just Googling for AWS root CA. Then take this one here. If you scroll down, you will find them here. So usually, or most likely, you will need this one. So these are the old ones. which you will probably not need. So if you have a rather recent AWS account, this is probably the one that you would need to download and upload here. You can determine that by going into your IoT Core. So if you go into IoT Core, go to Settings, and here you will see your endpoint. So this is the last piece of information that you will also need. And if this endpoint has a -ATS here, you can just you can definitely take this one. If it doesn't have the -ATS, you will need that root certificate over here. Now, again, as the last step, you will copy the endpoint, go back here, the endpoint goes in here, the root certificate you can just upload here, and access key and secret access key. So I've already done that and have my IoT Core label over here. Now we go into our boxes, we choose the one that we want to connect, go brownfield, wait a few seconds until we see the available data points. We choose the temperature sensor for now, go next, put an interval. Again, I'm going through this very fast since you've already seen a demo and I don't want to bore you at this point. We select IoT Core, enter a name, and hit create. Now, once this has loaded, again, we get this topic over here. We copy it, go into IoT Core, in test, go in here, subscribe to the topic, and yeah, we see the data coming in here. So this was the very quick run through of IoT Core. And yeah, as you can see, this hooks it up to IoT Core very fast. Now what you can do in here is basically in manage, in act, there is rules. So we already have a bunch of them. You can create new rules, give them a name, a description, and basically write a very simple query. Usually this means just select the message from a certain topic. So you could filter for a certain topic and then add actions. So this is the most important piece in here. Now there's all kinds of targets that you can use for the actions. So you could, for instance, write a message into a DynamoDB table. You can send a message to a lambda function, so basically invoking a lambda function. You could send a push notification. You can forward it into a Kinesis stream, which can then again process the data further. You can store it in S3. And yeah, basically you can use it as IoT events input and all those different things. Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail over here. And yeah, so that's the starting point for a generic application basically. So if you just want to forward the data in here, distribute it to other IoT services or other AWS services in general, this is the way to go. Now in the second part, let's talk about AWS IoT SiteWise. So what SiteWise is, I already quickly outlined at the beginning of the video. So this is the SiteWise console that you see here. Now, the most important pieces here are models and assets. So if you go into models, models basically describe the capabilities of an asset. So let's just take this one, for example, that we created in the past. Basically, models define measurements, so that those are the different values that are actually coming in from sensors or other devices. So these just define what a certain device does or what it is capable of. And using those models, you then create assets which are based on a certain model, and therefore that's kind of a one-to-many relationship, right? You can create multiple assets from a specific model, in which case you don't have to always define again and again how a certain asset looks like, right? So usually you create those by hand. So you go into create model, you enter a name, description, enter all the attributes, measurements that you have. and yeah, then hit create at the bottom. However, the good thing is that we do all of that for you. So our system, the CloudRail Management Cloud, automatically generates those models for the different sensors that you're trying to connect to it. So this you don't really have to care about. It's good to know what those are, but those will be done automatically for you by the system. Now again, the second part is the assets, which actually have the values in it, which we'll see in a second. So I'll come back to this part later, just for you to have an idea of what we're talking about when talking about SiteWise. Now, in the Management Cloud, again, the first step should be to add credentials for SiteWise. You can go back to the Credential Manager, add credentials, select SiteWise from here. Again, you enter a label, which is totally up to you. You have the same access key and secret access key option that you have for IoT Core, and you still get it from the same place or same sources as before. The only addition to what IoT Core has is that you also have to select the region where you want to use SiteWise in. So for me, this is EU Central 1. Now I would select this in here. Oh, sorry. EU Central. I will enter my access key, secret access key, and hit add credentials. That's all. So the configuration is pretty much the same as for IoT Core. Now, if I want to connect a sensor to SiteWise, I choose my box, go to New Connection, select Brownfield Environment. For instance, take my temperature sensor, go Next, select an interval. So this is just like for IoT Core. What shall we do? Let's just do 1 second. Next, I select IoT SiteWise. We enter a name. So for instance, test SiteWise. We hit create. Now, what happens in the background is we create the model first. So if there is no model for this specific sensor yet on SiteWise, as was the case right now, we will create the model first so we can go into SiteWise, take a look at that. So if we go into models, now we have 4 models here. One is the TSX00, so on. So this is the one that was just created, basically. Now, if you scroll down, you have the measurement section here. So these are the 5 values that you can also see in the schema provided on the Management Cloud, right? So this is the very same model. We've just mirrored that model to SiteWise. And yeah, there's also an asset created for this model, test SiteWise, which is, yeah, as I said, created by the Management Cloud in the first place. So you go into measurements, so you also get the latest values here. So if you go in here, you can already see the current value, the current data that is coming in. So if we wait a few seconds, I guess this should also refresh. Or we just do it manually. Yeah, so as you can see, there's a new value here. So this will also refresh automatically after a while. So this is one way of directly seeing what data is coming in. So that's already kind of a step up from IoT Core in the sense of visibility. Now, SiteWise has a second concept for visualization, or a separate concept rather, where you create something called Portal. So a SiteWise Portal allows you to create dashboards, and to visualize the data coming in. So how you do it is you go to portals, you create a new portal, you give the portal a name, you can brand it if you want, you choose a way of authentication. So this can either be the SSO, AWS SSO, if that is configured for your account or for your company. You can also use IAM, which will basically allow you to log in as an IAM user if necessary. So in that case, yeah, let's just choose the SSO one. You enter a support email. go next. There is a bunch of other settings for receiving alarms, which I'm not going into too much detail for now. You can create, and this will take a few seconds as well. Done. Now you have the way to invite administrators to it. I'm not sure why I'm getting an error message, but hey, let's just continue. So I select users for the portal. Okay, yeah. Now as you can see, the portal is now being created and then would be accessible through this link right here. So I already have one that I set up before. So I can go into this one. And yeah, that's how the portal looks like. So you can create custom dashboards in here. You can also just go to assets and look at a specific asset. So if we go to our test SiteWise asset right now, we can already see kind of the data coming in here in more or less real time, right? So this is the last 10 minutes of data. So if you go in here, you can actually see it as the data rolls in. Now again, you get it for all of the measurements right here, except for the string values, because obviously on/off is pretty hard to display in a chart. But yeah, that's mainly it. That's how SiteWise works. You can also create further hierarchies. So if you have a specific machine where you want to attach a sensor to, so if you want to create your own model, you can, for instance, create machine X as a model right here, and then assign that temperature sensor as a sub-model or sub-component of that model or that machine. And then you get some more detailed views on your setup. Now, we are working on some extended version of SiteWise right now, so this video will probably change in the near future, where we directly allow you then to specify a full path, and we're then able to automatically create all the hierarchical key components in the middle as well, which is not the case right now, but yeah, that will be coming. So once that happens, we'll update the video here. At this point, yeah, that's all there is to know about SiteWise for now. How you configure it, as I said, it looks pretty similar, at least from the configuration perspective, than IoT Core does, but allows you to easily visualize data and create small dashboards from multiple data sources as well. Now, in the last part of this video, we'll be talking about Greengrass and look at how we have made it very simple to deploy a Greengrass core and also to connect devices to it. Now, first and foremost, as always, we're taking a look at the credentials. So we go back to the Credentials Manager, go to Add Credentials, and select Greengrass from here. Now, as you can see, Greengrass has exactly the same credentials necessary as we had for IoT Core. So if you don't remember how they work or where to get them from, just go back to the beginning of the video and yeah, see how you can find them. Now, after this is done, what we need to do is decide which box we want to use for Greengrass. In this case, I'll take my demo box. I will go to Enable Greengrass down here. Now I can either create a completely new Greengrass group and core, which I would suggest since that is the easiest way to get set up. Or alternatively, you can use an existing core where you need to provide the ARN and the certificates for it. So in that case, we'll just use test Greengrass video and go to enable Greengrass. Now, what we do in the background is we create all the resources necessary for Greengrass to run. So it's already pre-installed on the box. Now we make API calls to AWS to get all the the groups created and to get all the details and certificates that we need down to the box. And the box then just initializes the Greengrass client that's already running there. So if we go to AWS IoT in Greengrass, in this case version 1, so at the moment we still have version 1 deployed on the box. Go into groups, and now we see our test Greengrass video group in here. Currently this is not deployed since there are also no devices connected to it yet. To change that, we go back to the management cloud, go to new connection, select brownfield. In this case, we take the temperature sensor again, go next, set an interval of 1 second. Next, now we choose Greengrass. Again, we enter a name for this specific device. Let's call it temperature test. Hit create. And again, the device is created on AWS. We create certificates and all that. And at the same time, we create the first deployment, or we create a deployment for Greengrass, which directly links that specific device to the Greengrass instance, to the Greengrass group. Now the deployment is correct and completed. As you can see in the devices section, we now have temperature test as a device already registered. And just to validate that this works, we go into subscription, which is basically the way to route traffic within Greengrass, where we basically define, okay, we want the data source, so this device that we just added, and that device should just forward all its data into IoT Cloud, so into AWS Cloud. Now as a topic filter, we just put the hashtag, so all the topics should be routed. We go next. Now we have to deploy again. This will take a little time. Perfect. Now the deployment is done. We can test this by going into the tests environment again. We copy this topic since it's still coming in for the same topic. Put this in here, hit subscribe, and as you can see, every second we're now getting data from our sensor into IoT Core. Now if we wanted to do that, we could obviously just use the IoT Core connection from the first part of the video. Now what we want to do is build something. Do a configuration, do some additional computations on the data that we have right now. Now the main idea, or one of the main features for Greengrass, is that you can run lambda functions locally on that box and then do certain computations beforehand, like building averages, maybe just filtering data, building in some of the other AWS services like notifications, or just trigger local behavior. So what you could also do is basically, once that temperature hits 30 degrees Celsius, I want to publish a message to another device on the same box, like a light bulb, for instance, which changes color. And all that happens without actually having to send any data to the cloud. All that can be done locally. Now to test this, I created a small lambda function already, which basically takes the event coming in, it extracts the Celsius value, and it builds a small text basically saying current temperature is XYZ degrees Celsius, and republishes that message to a new topic called test/publish. Now, whenever you want to use a lambda function for Greengrass or within Greengrass, you first have to publish an official version in here. So if you create a new one, there will not be any version in here. You would first need to go publish version and then just hit publish right here. So I've already done that. So I go back to my Greengrass group. test Greengrass video, lambdas, and add your first lambda. I want to use an existing lambda function, test Greengrass. So this one's on Python. It also tells me that this is compatible with the box right now, or with my Greengrass instance. Next, I select the latest version, finish, and that is done. Now the lambda function itself will be deployed to the box now, but it won't do anything since it's not invoked. So similar to the subscription over here, I need to create two more subscriptions, one being for this device, so all the messages from this device should be sent into this lambda function. Next, again, we just use hashtag as the topic filter, finish. Step 1, now I have to add a second subscription that allows the lambda function to publish data to IoT Cloud. Next, again, hashtag as the topic filter, next, finish. Perfect. Now this is set up. Again, we have to deploy it to the box, which we'll be doing now. Again, this takes a little time. Perfect. Now the deployment is also complete. We can go back to our test function. Now if we clear this, we should still see data coming in for the other topic. Now if I type test/publish and subscribe to this topic, I now get the new message format that we have previously set in the lambda function. And yeah, that's exactly how you can add a little step in between or add additional functionality to your applications by using Greengrass. Now this obviously is a very simple one. As I said before, there are many applications and many different things you can do using lambda functions or using other of the built-in Greengrass functionalities. Now that's all for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.